Convenience or dependence? In the midst of this energy crisis, they feel it necessary to tell you every day you won't be able to afford things. This and that will be cancelled. What is the most expensive appliance to run? And so on. So, I will take a look at that idea and break it down. Again, I have spent years giving thought to and researching social history and how things came to be the way they are, and indeed how they were before. I'll talk about obvious ones so you know what I mean. Washing machines and microwaves. Both became mainstream before I was born, but were still rather pricey as I was growing up. We didn't have a washing machine for years, or indeed a microwave. Instead, had to go for trips to the laundrette with my mum, getting to sit and watch all sorts of people doing their domestic chores in public. Then we had a twin tub machine, where after it was washing you had to hoist over the heavy wet washing into the spinner section. Then being able to rent one became a thing, and my mum rushed to get her first proper washing machine, and every week we went to the shop with the rental card to pay our instalment, sometimes just me going, seeing how, for what looks like a little amount consistently, you can have something big. Although once I learnt of the interest charges and length of time on these things, I realised where the money was, as in a business. It was for the people renting these appliances out. Both washing machines and microwaves entering the household on a normal basis meant a big change to the dynamic of said household, and one I really didn't appreciate at first, and probably not really for a long time even after I was aware. It changed time. Suddenly, women, and any domestic men at the time, had more time on their hands, and I didn't realise why I hadn't thought of it. The amount of time it used to take to complete certain manual chores was much more than today. So if you were spending all day cooking, cleaning, washing, shopping, etc., that's a whole day. But no more. You can have all that done within a couple of hours now, just by filling up a few machines and pressing a button or two. And maybe some loading and unloading. Minimal interaction and movement seem to be the point of these things, which is great if as a person you have limited mobility or dexterity. But for the average person, why would you want something or someone doing everything for you if you are perfectly capable? Unless you have something else you need or want to be doing, but that is where it got interesting to me. Because it seems that people need tasks and something to do. Without anything but boredom, we usually find ourselves out of sorts and naturally gravitate towards self-destruction in some cases. Some are content perhaps to just sit with their thoughts on an ongoing basis, which may possibly be as inactive as they are. The majority, however, would rather be doing something, with their time, energy and resources. But those three things have been commandeered and are not entirely within our control anymore. They help to make certain things affordable, as it was cost effective to them, cut down time on the need to be in the home, more workers to join the workforce. It's a win-win for them. More industry, more taxes, more consumerism. But what of the lose-lose for us? Less time with friends and family, less money because they increased the cost of things, so two incomes in a household didn't make it any better for many. And more consumerism has led to a greedy, throwaway attitude, which has unfortunately extended from the inanimate objects to people. They are now often viewed as expendable and replaceable, while constantly mentioning we will be obsolete. We were useful to build things for them that would be useful to replace us, and build better things for them. Weirdly though, we seem to have allowed ourselves to become obsolete in this, by becoming so dependent on all the gadgets and devices they have installed into our lives and finances. People start to forget how to do the manual things by hand, using your own initiative and strength. And each of those devices has a cost, both to our sense of purpose as noted above, and as purported by a certain henchman of the overlord. And there is also a cost in monetary terms. And we are seeing the finances laid bare of how much it really costs to live in their world of convenience. But that word is now being redefined too. Because they are the ones who decide how much these cost, and they make the vast amounts of money through it. They tie you in with meters for the electricity, hive systems now which require more batteries each year to maintain than I have ever known in my life. just to be able to adjust something from an app, which I don't have or use. I can use my hands to turn a dial just as much as I can use them to push a button. But turning the dial didn't used to cost anything. The phones which require power and cost to run, the internet which requires power and a contract, TV licenses, taxes, fees, bank charges, service subscriptions, etc. Strip that all back, quite recently as well, and there was none of that. Convenience or cost covered in my article, there was a time before. People didn't have each area of their daily life intruded upon in the grotesque fashion it is today, but the small implementations towards it were. And so has the social engineering to make it so. They made it so that they were your parent, caregiver, and warden throughout your whole life. From cradle to grave, as the idea went in the Beveridge report. As they say, all things start with good intentions. And whether it was with good intention, or it has been made to look that way, is past the point, because this is where we are now, with the results in full swing. The idea was planted in people's minds that they would be looked after from birth to death. It seems that post-war posed a unique opportunity for a new social order, having brought everyone together under the banner of a shared event. I will go into that further in another post. So I ask you, do all these devices and systems really seem that convenient after all? And what they propose for the future? Further systems, logins, implants, chips, targets, restrictions and procedures, all dependent on electricity and you being part of the consumer conveyor belt that feeds their lives. And that is where we find we actually have a codependency happening. A symbiotic relationship we don't really want, but they require. Almost like those parasitic insects that need to keep their host alive to be able to live and survive themselves. Which is why they maybe want us to think that we are so disposable and expendable. Constantly hearing news that we are no longer required for the future, it can be done without us. Almost sounds like when someone is afraid you will leave, and they say you will never be happy without them, you'll never cope without them. But inevitably, we always do. That does not mean we always will, but it should be noted and recognised when appropriate. People are stronger than they know, and are more important than they realise. To minimise that existence is a cruelty in itself, added to all the others heaped unnecessarily upon us. We create our own reality, they say, and currently are allowing that to be hijacked by the darkest type of vision. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If we don't want their cold, sterile, monitored digital prison that appears to be coming, then we better get on it and start constructing our own future reality right now.